Welcome into the third edition of 316 Soccer Show. Coming to you once again live here from Emerson, Biggins, West. Peter Espinosa, Blake Shoemaker, and Cliff Brown here. Cliff, former Wichita Wings goalkeeper and head coach of the Newman Men's University soccer team. Blake Shoemaker, owner of Service Body Shop and the president and founder of the Wichita Wings Youth Soccer Academy. Tonight on the slate, the 3 Milwaukee games that the Wings just got done playing last week. We've got Bryan, Perez, and Kevin Eyck here. And we've got our youth players of the week once again, and then a little bit international football. So let's get started here. Wichita Wings invited Milwaukee Wave, the league-leading Milwaukee Wave, into Wichita for 3 games, one Friday, one Saturday, and then last Thursday. This was, of course, 2 weekends ago. They come away with one, and at the beginning, Cliff, of the pregame of the very first game, you said you'd be happy with them to come away with one. They came away with one, the very first one. I mean, was it enough? I mean, a great win, first of all, but they had their chances in the other 2 games as well.
Absolutely. They played tight in all 3 games. I mean, they were in every game. They gave themselves an opportunity right up to the last whistle, last minutes of the game, fighting and battling. I think that's fantastic results for them. I thought the best chance they would have would be in that first game. Catch them early, catch them fast. Milwaukee's going to bounce back. They're always going to come at you hard. They're a quality team. They're able to hold the ball. They're able to penetrate, do all the things that they need to do. But I think the Wings really accounted for themselves well, and it still gives them an opportunity. We have one more meeting with them on the road up there. That's always tough. But the first game up there, we led at halftime, and the opportunities are still there. I think the Wings could still take another game off this team. But one out of those 3, with the way things are going, I thought that was a pretty good result for us. And like I said, it's not just the one win. It's the competitive level we were able to sustain through each game.
And now, Blake, you said very, very close down there. And not only did you get to enjoy the game, but you were doing some yelling at the players and actually some recruiting, huh?
Yeah, I was in the recruitment, but you said we invited them to Wichita.
Yeah,
if that's the case, we evicted them at the end.
No, we were too good a host, though, giving them 2 wins.
But I mean, talk about your banter down there with some of those guys. You're having some fun with them.
It may have looked like I was offensive at times, and I'm gonna.
And you were.
Yeah, I'm not gonna totally disregard that from Cliff. However, I did, a few players, and Ian Bennett, a few guys that were never in the middle of anything, never really caused it. They're not kicking Kevin in the back of the head, and Brian's not getting smacked by him, and. There's plenty of that going on.
Insinuating other players from the Wave might have done that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know if I can pronounce their names, but there's plenty of them. And not to mention the tackle that started the last one with Bryan Perez came from Santos, so I will throw his name out there, which I can pronounce. I did ask him, one of the things I asked him is, how'd you get the 10 kit? Typically you earn that, or you're a player of some kind of caliber, but I decided he maybe won it in a boxing match.
Maybe it was notches.
I wasn't sure.
Maybe it was notches. He's got 10 notches this year in the league.
Yeah, or 10 players that maybe are like, franchise players that are now injured and out for the season because of. But anyway, Edvin goes down with the tackle from behind. Freddie goes down with something, gets twisted up. Maybe a shot to his ankle gets twisted up, and ultimately, has a fractured knee among another injury.
Bone bruise on the top of his right foot.
You may be able to pronounce that. Can I have you give me a shot? What's the injury?
Freddie?
Freddie's injury.
Oh, I can't remember.
The medical term.
Cannot remember.
No, it's contusion.
Words.
A contusion and a fracture.
Yeah, 2 separate fractures to 2 different parts of his knee.
Ultimately, there were some guys that weren't involved, but the guys that are their top players, Liete, Ian Bennett, guys like that I was yelling, hey, these guys are punks. Honestly, I quote, these guys are punks. Leave them, come to Wichita. We appreciate quality men and quality soccer players.
And I've talked about that with you before, that the Liete was actually available over the summer and offered to come to Wichita, but at that time Wichita was already
extended
on the salary cap and didn't have the funds to bring him in, but that would have been a great addition to the team. Quality player.
Absolutely.
And second generation indoor player.
Those guys showed a little interest to come. We got a young team, and
as I told you,
Chile was one of our bigger signees.
They're free agents.
The salary cap was a little more full with that. And now that those kind of players, they're available in Wichita. We have a great fan base. Our guys fight hard. Whether we have 3 or 4 of our top guys out injured, we got.
Don't use the word
rookies.
term fight. I don't think that's the right one to use.
Well, yeah. Fight shouldn't be the word to use right now. Our guys play hard, and LeBaron and Sammy got these guys in the game. They got themselves in the game. Every one of these matches, and arguably against it is the best team in the league. But we're outmanned typically. If you take player to player, it seems like Wichita. this team, I don't know how they fit it in. We've mentioned that. How does Milwaukee get all these guys into the salary cap?
Well, it's not only that, but you look at the number of indoor rookies that we have and true rookies that we have.
9 out of the 18.
And compared to their team,
rookies.
How many of the other 9 are injured right now that are guys that are normally Tijani, Freddie? I mean, these guys have got a lot of time, and that's who we're leaning on.
And that's what's most impressive about the last 2 games. Freddie, it seemed to me like he got injured at second or third quarter. No, he got injured in the first quarter, and so we pretty much had to go 2 games without him, and we're in both games still.
Opportunity to be in
and
those
still no
games
Tijani, still no Mulai
at the end of both of those
Absolutely,
matches.
and we're still missing other top players. Yeah. I mean, that speaks well for the guys that are still playing, how they've lifted their game, and what they show here, because that's something that coach can't coach. He can help motivate, he can help do things, but they got to bring this themselves, and that says a lot that they kept themselves in these games, because in a lot of ways they were really outplayed. And yet they refused to let Milwaukee distance themselves. And that's a big statement, I think.
That's a lot of what this show's about. Kevin Eyck, Bryan Perez, both guys that have elevated their game. Eyck with a couple game winners, right? His play's been unbelievable. From the progression that we've seen from Kevin from the beginning of the year on, that's a whole other segment actually coming up today, and Bryan as well.
And Bryan too.
LeBaron told me, he said Bryan's elevated his game to the star type game that he's capable of, and he's putting guys in, and he's taking opportunities, he's putting shots on goal.
And it just showed, Bryan's productivity this year just shows how underutilized he was in Missouri last year. Played all 20 games, but only had 3 points, I believe. And this year he's already approaching the 20-point mark. And that just showed last year's shifts.
MISL doesn't track in minutes. We went through that.
Right. Yeah, but also to be fair to Kim Runfed up there, that was his first year, rookie year.
It was.
He as the season went, he changed that roster up there and brought in more experienced players. That's when Jamie Harding went up, Casey went up, and it kind of shifted the nature of that team. That's going to make it difficult for a player like him to get a lot of playing time. But for him, then it's about development and put himself in the right position, and that's what he's done. And he's bringing that experience now, and he's built on it this year at here in Wichita, and it's put himself now that he's in a position to step in and really use the talents that he has. That doesn't happen overnight real often. You've talked about Kevin. There's still a lot of developing to go for Kevin tonight. He's got a long way to go, a long way to develop. What we see in future years is going to be very different than what we see this year. And Bryan Perez is going through that same progression right now. So
Bryan Perez had to step in.
How many times have we used the term blue-collar league? And that's what we're getting from those 9 rookies. Yeah, they're technical players. They're good players in their own right. We haven't seen them much. So we can't say, hey, this is his strength. This is at the beginning of the year, we didn't know. We knew Bryan, for instance, with his UMKC, he had some great years in UMKC.
Absolutely.
But, and we can get into that a little bit later. But we didn't really have much to go off of other than that. And now that they're getting minutes, but ultimately the blue collar league, it's these guys are passionate about playing. They refuse to say die. They refuse to lose, and they're in every match at the end of the game, with the exception of 1 or 2. One in Kansas City and one in Milwaukee. They're in every game.
Another thing about Perez is, you and I talked about it earlier today. When Chile departed and he was released, Bryan Perez was forced into such a larger role to kind of play that role. He was always in on the power plays and taking free kicks, but he moved up top to where Chile was, and and not just that. He had to fill a huge role there, and LeBaron asked him to. He told him, you're kind of going to be one of the central guys now in the midfield. And he's done well.
And he has stepped up to that, but ultimately the guy that we've all said all year, at this point, we can't live without Victor Quiroz.
There you go.
Bryan's done his thing. Victor's always played well. He's played in the back a lot, but now with Freddie out in the last couple of games, we've seen Victor say, hey, I got to get forward.
He'd already started to step up when Chile left. He'd already started, you talk about Bryan elevating his game. Victor had already done the same thing.
Everybody did.
That was going to be my point. I mean, I think it's not just Bryan. I think all the players have stepped up. You see players like Kevin coming out of the back more and more, looking to score. Kevin tonight. You see, Mosley learning and developing his game and getting aggressive. Things that weren't happening earlier. They weren't happening. But everybody's had to change, become more of a blue collar team, rely on the team synergies rather than individual talent. And that's really what's put us where we are, is those team synergies, where that sum is that whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's what makes the Wings a good team right now.
Absolutely.
So first night, 18-16 win with a Kevin Eyck. It was his second game-winning goal in as many games, because he had the game winner up in Missouri at the Sprint Center. Both, pretty spectacular goals. The one up. Give me the name of the one up in the Sprint
Flying
Center.
Side volley.
Flying side volley.
No, wait. Saucer.
I coined a new phrase, a saucer.
Saucer.
I think he did a 360 in the air when he did that. I'm not sure, but that's what it looked like to me.
Cliff Brown calls it a saucer.
New term, new soccer term for all the fans out there.
And then he goes back to Wichita, has a winner against Milwaukee. And then the next 2 games, then there was some late game controversy in that game. The the infamous did the ball go over the line or not. That's Ronaldo brought back over.
There's no controversy. Game over. It did not go over the line. End of discussion. I'm finished
Keith
with that
Tozier
one.
might say there's a controversy.
The game is on. The game is on the book.
Controversy until he ran into Stone
Blazek.
Cold John Blazek. Yeah, he came bulldozing over, and Blazek decleated him with his chest, I think. So yeah, Blazek was pretty.
He was
fired
out there
up that
moving
night,
to separate.
He was taking a win, and we were moving on.
Yeah.
There wasn't going to be any discussions, officials, Tozier.
The game's in the books. There's no controversy anymore. It's a done deal.
And then the next night, Saturday, a 9-6 game, kind of a more defensively played game, and I felt like neither team played as well as they did the night before.
Well, obviously, first of all, you have the fatigue factor. Milwaukee's been traveling. They come in, they play the first game. Those back-to-back games are very, very difficult, especially, when you're Milwaukee's probably expecting to come into town. We're third place in the division. They've seen us a couple times up
and
there.
You said you felt like they never respected us.
They did not respect. I could tell from the very, very start, the way they came out to warm up, the way they approached the game. They're a very arrogant team anyway, which is okay. I mean, we've talked about it. We like arrogant players. We like players that have confidence.
Well, they didn't warm up, like you said.
No,
how
they didn't.
They didn't even warm up until 15 minutes before the match in the first game. We didn't see them come out of their locker
room. They did not
room.
take the game seriously.
Yeah.
And throughout the course of the game, when they build a lead, they got very lackadaisical. They didn't get their restart set very well defensively, and there were some goals scored on the wings by the wings that way. They just a lot, and even the way they played the first power play against us, which they scored on, but you could tell they were pushing. They weren't respecting the wings' ability to score at all on the power play, and they just went after them. And that time it paid off. That time it paid off. But overall, I just looked at the attitude, the way they approached the game, and I knew they were going to be right. That towards the end of the game, they were going to make mistakes. They're going to take it for granted, which is what they did. And the Wings are a good enough team to pounce on that.
When they realized they were in a dogfight, the next night they sure possessed. The international game,
and that's why it's a lower scoring game.
You know time of possession, how many touches, how long do they have possession, this, that. We don't know that in the MISL right now, but they had possession a lot.
But I've talked about that.
Making those diagonal runs, making space. How many times did we stop and say, hey, they just held possession to sub?
Well,
They're subbing 3-1
not only that, but Tozier has a policy when they get certain points in the game where he wants a minimum of 7 passes before they look to go for goal. They can go forward, but they have to pass it. They're trying to kill the clock. They're trying to slow the game down. They're trying to make the other team chase, and they're very, very good at that. And that's a direct policy he has. He'll tell them it's 7 pass time now, and that's what they're required to do. And they're very good at holding that ball and possessing it, and that made it a much lower scoring game. And in some ways, it doesn't necessarily hurt the Wings that way. Because they're holding the ball, the Wings can drop in, get their pressure established, get their line of confrontation at the halfway line like they pick and choose where they want to channel and apply the pressure. And as long as they don't give up too much in the back, let them have it up high, it's not going to hurt them too much.
So a loss Saturday night, then Milwaukee goes home. They fly back for a Thursday night game, which was kind of the night of skirmishes and small, we can't even call them fights. We'll talk about those skirmishes with our two guests coming up here in the next couple segments. And that game did end up in a loss, a 16-13 loss. But and also, we want to mention real quick before we go to break, there is a Mason.
Mason from Harper, Kansas. There's a 16-month-old boy that's right now having brain surgery and chemotherapy, and there's a lot of things going on with him. I'm not real close to the situation, but the Wichita Wings have donated a autographed soccer ball for Wings fans to bid on, with all the proceeds going towards this young man. And I believe you have the link to it, but ultimately we're looking into it more. We wish him and his family the best. We do know that the mom's up there every day with them. He's in the hospital. Family's helping out with their other kids, and this little boy's got his mom sitting next to him. So what a great support group they have. But we would like to do our best to do anything we can to help them. So if we can drive people to this link and get some bids, there's got to be some kind of fund that's set up outside of there that you can find on their page as well. But Peter, what is that link?
There's 2 Facebook pages. In It for Mason is the general site that has Mason and the information. People, you want to leave him a message, go on there and do it. And then the site to go and check out the Wings autographed soccer ball and bid, if you would like to, is Wichita Wings signed soccer ball - In It for Mason. Pretty easy to find. Just search them on there, check it out, and help a little boy who needs it right now. Okay, first segment done. When we come back, a couple Wings guests here on the 316 Soccer Show, live from Emerson, Biggins West. We'll be right back.